Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar presented by the Servant Leadership Institute in Carlsbad, California. I'm Carol Malinsky, Manager of Products and Services at SLI, and I will be hosting today's conversation. Our founder and CEO, Art Barter, is with us this morning to talk about the servant leader behavior of increasing your influence. SLI is a leadership development organization dedicated to teaching the implementation of servant leadership. We believe servant leadership is to inspire and equip the people we influence. Servant leadership takes that traditional power model of leadership and turns it upside down. In order to fully benefit from today's discussion, we will include an opportunity for you to ask questions toward the end of our time today. Here's how you can submit your questions. As you see on the right-hand side of your screen, there is an area to type in questions. Feel free to ask questions at any time during the webinar, and we'll get to as many of those questions as possible during our Q&A segment at the end of the session. And we invite you this morning to live tweet during the session. It's one more way to build the servant leadership community. The Institute teaches that to transform and sustain a servant-led culture, there are 9 behaviors that are key. At our last webinar, we discussed the behavior of demonstrate courage. This session, we're going to have a conversation around the behavior increase your influence. Art, could you define or describe for us the behavior increase your influence?
Yeah, great, Carol. Hi, everyone. Yeah, good morning. Thank you, and good afternoon to those in other time zones. And thank you for being with us today. You know, influence is a very important aspect of being a leader, and we have to realize how we influence people. But before I answer the question, I'd like to take a minute and discuss the groundwork that we set with everyone so far and the other behaviors that we've talked about.
Ooh,
so
that's a great idea.
If I go back and talk serve first, you know, we've talked about changing our mindset, thinking about doing things for other people, letting our heart show. And you know, that's the first mindset we have to decide that, hey, we want to be a different type of leader. Once we decide that, then we go to build trust. And those that we want to influence, they have to trust our intentions. You know, they have to trust that we have the right intention to help them to get better, to meet them where they are, and help them grow as individuals, and then also help the company grow or the organization grow. And then once you decide to serve first, then you're building trust, and then you have to really, I mean, now you're come to the junction in the road where you have to figure out your values and deciding who you are, because now you've decided to live a different type of life as a leader. So, you know, deciding who you are and how they relate to serving first and building trust, and how you want to live your life for the sake of others. Now, you may have some values that change after you've decided to make that change as a leader. And then once you get through that thought process, and you've got to now decide to invest in people, and that's where listening to understand comes. You've got to invest your time in others to really understand where they are and what they need from you. And listening from a perspective of a servant's heart, you know, from a heart of wanting to build trust, from a heart of wanting to live who you want to be, not what others expect you to be, you really need to invest time in listening. And then through this process, you're going to want to spend some time with yourself and invest in yourself, and that's where thinking about your thoughts come in. How you want to live your values, impacting the lives of others, what you need to do from a behavior standpoint, but this is time that you invest in yourself. We've talked about changing a mindset, investing in others and building trust, investing in others and adding value, and living your values. And now we've got to go, okay, now I've got to spend some time with myself and invest with myself and change my thinking. And invest in yourself. Now you're ready to add value to others, to show that you really care, that you want to help, that you will invest both your time and your resources, and the resources that you have at your disposal to help others in your life. Now you're ready to go add some value. But along the way, on this road, you're going to come across some challenges, and that's the time to be courageous. And you're going to have signs of challenges. You're going to have pushbacks to the new you, to the new leader that you want to become, to have those courageous conversations with others who might not understand why you've decided to be a different type of leader, why you want to do what you do, may not understand the new you that came from the new priorities in your life. But now you've got to be courageous and say, you know what, I want to stick on this road. And to do that, I've got to have some of those courageous conversations we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
And now, through all that journey, now you're ready to talk about increasing your influence. If we talked about increasing your influence as first, before we had you guys go through all these behavioral and looking at it and understanding, you wouldn't be ready to increase your influence. It would be the old you. And in my life,
like influence with what?
If I serve first from a power perspective,
yeah,
I'm going to serve first from a power perspective, not from a serving perspective. So there's things that you have to do, and people will know that you care. And now you're ready to inspire and equip those that watch you, that you influence. Mm-hmm. The influence that you have on others will come from your behaviors and not from your talk. And they'll see it in the way that you live your lives. You'll be caring about the lives of others, and you help them through the unfolding of their lives' events. And, you know, it's progressive, and you have to lay these foundations to get to where you are today to increase influence. And so your influence comes from your behaviors, comes from the words you use, the tone of voice that you use, what's important to you, what's not important to you, where you show up, where you don't show up. Those are all going to the influence. Yeah. But at the top level, it's always to inspire and equip those that are watching us, that we influence. Not just the people that report to us, but those that watch us.
Right. The leader really does become, he's on a stage. He or she is literally, not literally on a stage, but they are on display at all times.
All the time. Everyone is watching you, and trust me, when the leader doesn't perform well, the rest of the organization knows it.
Yes.
You know, like this. I worked in an organization many, many years ago, and we had a CEO that it was all about him. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't a very nice guy, and he yelled at people and screamed and hollered. We actually had a code that we had the receptionist use when he was in the parking lot, and she would go over the loudspeaker and say, you know, somebody's waiting in the lobby, and that was our code to know that that CEO was walking in the front door, and beware. And those are, you know, that's the path that's behind.
Yeah. And so people would modify their behavior, basically, if they heard that statement?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Or some would just, they go find something to do outside the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. That's pretty bad. Oh, my goodness. So what should then, for a servant leader, really, what should their purpose be in trying to spread their influence?
Well, you know, you talk about having a positive outcome on those you influence. Mm-hmm. You engage others in a positive change. And you have to look around the world, and you have to meet people where they are, and so you can seek some influence there. But now you've got to give with the right intentions, with the right motives, and with a heart to help others. Mm-hmm. And the motive and the heart, people are going to see that right away. You're now in a bright light. We talked about you're a bright light in the world, and that light needs to get bigger in a lot of lives. But you're the bright light because you've decided to change. You've decided to do things differently. You've decided to treat people differently. And now people like to be around you. And now you're an influence that now becomes something that's pretty cool. And, you know, the phrase people like to, do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Well, now you're the light at the end of the tunnel. People go, I want to go to that light.
Yeah.
Because I see something different and I feel something different. Yeah. Not just, you know, someone who's saying something. You know, this year at the conference, Liz Wiseman talked for the first time. And look, really what it's all about is you want to become a multiplier. Mm-hmm. Share the knowledge that you have. Share what you know about helping and serving others so they can go out and help and serve others in their lives as well. So you become a multiplier.
Right.
And let that just go in all different directions.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that really it becomes, you're increasing your influence becomes larger a lot of times than just that particular task that you are leading your group to do. It really is something that people can carry into their lives, and you can influence them in their lives as well as, you know, helping them to achieve in specific work issues.
Right.
We're not discounting, the fact that we need to get results. Please don't misunderstand us. Part of helping people and influencing them to grow is helping them to deliver results.
It is. It is. And, you're going to run into some challenges. It's really interesting to watch leaders who now realize they have influence, but you're really not going to realize you have that much influence until you start hearing the stories come back and share with you. So I have a file that I keep at home, and the file's titled Why I Do What I Do. And what I put in that file are the thank you notes from people that send me and go, Art, you have no idea the influence you've had on my life. And I go, I couldn't even, I don't know what did I say and when did I say it that impacted that life?
Yeah.
I can't put those two together, but I know the face, I know the person, and I can see that person smiling when I put that in the file. And start a file like that when you start influencing people. The stories of impacting others' lives is really what's going to get you going in influencing other people. Yeah.
So you mentioned briefly that there would be challenges, which is certainly not surprising. What are some of those challenges that people are going to meet as they seek to spread their influence?
Well, you're going to have resistance. If you've been a power leader or a leader that hasn't cared about people or just cared about yourself, people are going to go, all right, Art, are you really serious about this change?
Yeah.
And you're going to say, yes, I am. And they're going to take those words and they're going to go, okay, well, I'm going to watch what you do for the next month and see if your words really match up. So you're going to have some resistance from people who aren't sure if your motives are right. And then once they figure out your motives are right and you build some trust, then they're going to go, okay, is this going to last? Or is this just the latest and greatest in the latest leadership model, right, here in the United States? So, resistance is going to come from all different areas in your life. Could come from family, could come from friends, could from people you work with. So you've got to have the courage to say, no, I'm living my life this way, and there isn't anything that's going to change how I'm going to live my life. Treat people with dignity and respect, and you're not going to have any problem with that resistance. You'll get through it. Don't attempt to be a hard sell up front. And when I first got started in the show, I announced to the management team we're going to be a servant-led organization. Yeah. And I think the end of the year, first year, I looked back and I said I had a handful of people following me, but the other group was going, this is the latest fad. This is going to pass, and we're just going to figure out how we get through this. Influence is not a one-shot effort, and you need to understand that people go, well, he was nice today, but he's not going to be nice next week. It's not one shot. You have to be consistent.
And give your message over and over and over and over again.
Over again, right. We call that, in the book that's coming out later this year, we call that Groundhog Day communication from the movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray lives the same thing over and over and over again. That's the role of a servant leader. You say the same thing over and over again and make sure people know your values, know what you're doing. Know what you're doing. Just don't say it once and go, well, I said it last year. What's everybody's problem? Yeah. No, you have to say it over and over again and keep you are the champion of your leadership culture in your company. Be that champion and let people know that, hey, these are the things that are important to me. And then understand the differences on how people are going to react to your influence. As I've said before, you're going to have some people who are going to react really well to it. You're going to have some people who are going to really struggle with it. Some may be downright hostile with it. And that's just their way of dealing with change. Don't hold it against them. It's just their way of dealing with change. The challenges will come. And the last thing I'll just mention is you will make mistakes, and that old power leader will come out. And that's okay, as long as you recognize that it came out and apologize to the people you impacted. So, you know what, I'm working on this. I'm not perfect. Please forgive me for what I said yesterday or with the wrong tone, because I do want to get better. Yeah,
people have a tendency, I think, to look at leaders and somehow forget that they're human at the same time that they're trying to lead.
Right.
And it's a big growth step when people are able to look at their leader and understand that.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Very definitely.
Yeah.
So there are formal ways that we can influence people. You know, a certain way that you want to explain yourself to a colleague or something, perhaps some project that you're working on together. So if we want to take a formal approach to influencing, what are some of the steps we can take to prepare ourselves for that?
Well, I start with, you know, let's assess our own situation first versus their situation. Think about our thinking, think about who we are, how we're responding to things. What do we need to do to change first?
Yeah.
You know, that's a famous saying, if you want people to change, you change first and then they'll change and provide that change back to you. And then it's true in the influence you have as a servant leader. We call it meeting people where they are. But in order to meet people where they are, you have to understand where you're coming from, right?
Yeah.
Or you're going to be off, and so it helps. What's your goal in working on that relationship and increasing influence? Why do you want to do that? Do you just want something out of them? You just want a project done? Do you want a deadline met? Or is it all about you, or are you really investing your time to help people be successful? And when they are, do you give them recognition, or do you take the credit with your boss and say, hey, look what I did. I got this all done. I love to tell people you're only as good as the people you have working for you, and that requires a relationship in order for you to influence them.
So the approach then is more becomes not let me win in this situation, but rather let's find a way to go forward together, so that everybody wins.
Right. Right. You create the win-win situation with the other person's perspective in mind. Let them win first. Let them win some things. And you know, I always like to share with leaders, it's not about convincing someone that you're right and they're wrong. It really is, how can we work together to do more together than we can do individually? And so a lot of times we have to extend our hand out to people. We have to ask what's going on and then sit back and listen and not try and fix everything, and invest our time in that individual. And things will come back to you. Things will come back to you eventually. When you continue to treat people the same way on a consistent basis, that treatment will come back to you. Yeah.
Before we go a little farther with specifics on this formal influencing, I just want to remind people that you can enter your questions at any time during the program, and we will get to them during the Q&A section. So let's say we want to influence someone in sort of a formal meeting. I've asked someone to meet with me, and my purpose is to reach some sort of common ground so that we can go forward together. How can I prepare for that session? What are some steps I can take to prepare?
First thing you should do as a leader is close your door, find your quiet place, and think about your thinking. All right?
Good one, you got me.
And you have to think about what you're going to do and what your motives are. What's the results you want for the organization, not for you as an individual, but for the organization and for the team. Most of us are part of teams, and so you have to think team first and not individuals. So, but you have to, you know, what can I give? What do I know that I can give to help that other person understand possibly the overall situation? When you're in a leadership role in a department, an organization, or like myself as CEO, I have access to all types of information. People in departments have access to the information that's in their department.
Right.
What can I share? What information do I have that others don't that I can share that will help them understand what we need to do? So, you know, take that approach a little bit. The key points you want to make, that you want to talk about, you should have 3 to 5 things that you want to talk about. Don't go in there with 15 things because you're not going to get through them. And 3 to 5 things that you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Talk about what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and what's hearing. And those are great questions to ask others. What do you hear? What do you see? And what are you feeling? And then sit back and listen. And you want to make sure people have an interest in what you're saying. And there's as leaders, we can watch the nonverbal signs around the room when we know that the people we're trying to influence, they shut us off. They shut us down. Yeah. And when that happens, stop the discussion. Say, listen, we'll come back to this tomorrow. I need to either get my thoughts together. We need to have a little bit more time to talk about this. We feel a little bit rushed. So let's think about it for another 24, 40 hours, and we'll come back to it. And you've got to read those signs, because when people have shut you off as a leader, you're not going to turn them back on in a meeting. They've shut you off. And the famous one I look for is people who are looking down at the table. And when I have 10 people in the room and everybody's looking at the table, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Not them. I'm in trouble because I've done something to create that environment. That's the negative influence that you have as a leader, right? And that's not the type of influence we want to increase. We want to have it positive. So.
So we talked a little bit about influencing in a formal manner, but what are some tips that you could share about just in general influencing non-formally? Some ways that we can do that on a day-to-day basis.
Well, we've talked about trust, and trust can be built in a lot of different ways. A simple thing you can do with people is acknowledge them in the hallway. Say hi to them. Good morning. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
With a smile on your face?
With a smile on your face. And, there's a great scene in one of the submarine movies I love where the guy's coming to work. He's a Russian defense minister, and the Hunt for Red October.
Oh, okay.
And he's walking in, and the guy says good morning to him, and the leader goes, and he groans all the way to his desk. Yeah. Everybody's trying to say hi to him. That leader needs to return that hi, and not just moan and groan and grunt, but say, hey, good morning. How you doing? I'm doing great. Looking forward to the day. So you can influence people with your attitude, just in simple things. You can influence them with investing your time in them. Give them more instruction. Teach them what you know. Teach them about the business. That's what I really like to do is teach people about the business. Help them understand how I see things. So when they get a reaction from me, they understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Trying to guess, well, what's got Art going today? I don't understand that. Well, let me take you for a walk and let me show you the things that I see and what conclusions I come to when I see that. Now, my conclusions may not be right, and I may need some further conversation, but at least help people understand where you're coming from and learn about the business.
Yeah.
You can provide some professional guidance with them. You can help motivate them with some coaching. But it's the golden rule is treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you want to be treated in a positive way, treat others in a positive way in all that you do. And those are the informal ways. And a lot of times we talk about, hey, Carol, how's Brian doing? Now Brian's Carol's son. How's Brian doing? Or how's Joey doing? And you can just ask people. And like I said before, you don't have to know their names. You just have to care enough to go, how's your family doing? How's your kids doing? I heard you were struggling last month. How you get back on the positive track? Are you doing better? Right?
Yeah.
One of the things the SLI team has been fighting with is the flood. We had the flood that wiped out our entire floor, and our team here has been stuck in a conference room. And they finally, they did great, but they finally came to me and said, Art, it's time for us to get out of the conference room. We love each other, but we really need some alone time, right? We need some time to think, and so my influence is going, you know what, I can't control how we're going to move back and everything. Just go do it. Go pick out your office, go figure out what you want to do, and go make it happen. Instead of sitting down and making a plan and who's going to do what, and just let them go make it happen, right? Empower people to go fix problems and take care of things. So there's all kinds of different informal ways you can do that, but you have to care and you have to invest, and it has to come from the heart.
There's one thing I'd like to add to that about professional guidance and advice, which was on our slide, and that is, please be aware that you're not a professional counselor. Well, maybe you are, but many of us are not, and I think sometimes we can get, because we care about people, we might fall into that role. And so you really need to be careful, I think, that you don't become this psychologist with people.
Right, exactly.
That's not really our place. So I just kind of wanted to throw that in.
The best leaders don't try and fix everything, but they know where to get help for people.
Right.
And that's when leaders have to say, yes, the right thing for me to do is to get some professional coach. We're not all great coaches.
Right.
We always think we're great mentors, but coaching is a little bit different. And go find the right coach for the individual. Bosses who want to coach and mentor, that's great, and you can do it to a certain, but sometimes it's better to go invest and let them find their own coach that will help them through those challenges that they don't feel comfortable talking about with their boss.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yep. Great point.
Yeah. So regardless of whether we're doing informal influencing or formal influencing, what are just some general points you can give us, some general suggestions?
Well, on this slide, listen actively. Invest your time in listening to understand. It is an active behavior, and it requires you to invest time. Acknowledge the other person's point and their expertise, and this is one thing we're starting to look at more in the last year or so. Is there's so much knowledge in organizations that I think remain untapped. Mm. And as leaders, our job is to use all that knowledge. And there are times when people in organizations, my favorite one is people like to believe they're good buyers. And so I don't need to go through purchasing. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do my own buying. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to that. I hired you to do this job over here. I didn't hire you to buy. So I need these projects done. It doesn't include buying. So respect the knowledge of the people who are in that position. And that's a big thing for us to do, is go, I don't need to know everything and about everything that goes on in the organization, but I need to know where to go to get the answers. Who's got the knowledge? Mm-hmm. Who knows how to do that? And respect that. I think that's really important. I love sitting down with people and helping understand, Carol, you and I can do more together than we can apart. So why don't we spend time working together instead of having this little informal battle going on where you go off and do your thing and I go off and do my thing, and then we come together and go, whoops, we got to go back and redo this. Why don't we start working together right up front?
Or why is he looking at my data?
Yeah, why is he looking at my data? Yeah, why is he looking at somebody else's data, right? Yeah, exactly.
We become very protective.
The word but and those are all, I think people know when someone acknowledges what you said. Carol, I understand how you feel about that, but, right? And I have now wiped out exactly what I just said.
Words.
I just wiped it out, and I said, I hear what you say, but I really don't care what you said.
Yeah.
So be sensitive to the words that you use. You can say, from my experience, and this is not the only way, and then ask the question, what experience have you had? Mm-hmm. What can you bring to the table, and how can we work things together? Ask problem-solving questions. Ask for the other person's advice. That is a big one. As leaders, if we just went to someone and say, you know what, we've got this challenge. What do you think we should do? Mm-hmm. How do you think we should handle it? Well, what's going on? And not go in and say, I have this problem, and this is what we're going to do about it. So ask the other person's advice. In the mutual benefit and satisfaction, when people work together and know that they can do more together than they can do apart, and the team succeeds at a level that wasn't expected because people work together, you go, wow.
It's the best feeling in the world.
It is, because the team flies high, and they feel great about what they accomplished, and everybody feels good. The leaders feel good. The people doing the work, everybody feels good.
All the families feel good.
So why don't we do that more often? We're on a high, a natural high. We don't need anything else to, I don't need any more coffee. Just give me a natural high. And man, if we just do more of that, then we get our engagement numbers way up, and people would be happier. They'd be they'd be willing to come to work. I remember a CEO I interviewed many, many years ago. He looked out over his 300-acre campus, and he said, I sit and watch my folks go out 2 gates at both ends of the campus. He says, my job is to make sure they want to come back in the gate in the morning. And isn't that about influence?
Yeah,
You want
absolutely.
to influence them to want to come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Well, we talk a lot about influencing those that report to us. We talk about influencing management. But can you give us your thoughts about the best way to influence at the peer-to-peer level? You know, let me give you an example. For example, you're part of a department and you feel like the Lone Ranger with regard to servant leadership. What would you suggest?
I'm gonna add. This is a peer-to-peer question, correct? So sometimes the leader may get involved with that peer-to-peer, and sometimes they won't. But the first question I would ask is, where's the trust level between the two individuals, the two peers? Where's the trust level?
Oh, that's interesting.
Between the two?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that person? What are you bringing to the table from your past experiences?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, does the person talk like someone that you knew in your past? Have they said words? Do they act like someone in your past? Do they have a negative attitude like someone in your past that really hurt you and didn't help you? Think about from that perspective. That may be triggering some thoughts in your mind that that person is just like the other one. Give that person a break and go talk to them. But you know, where's your trust level with that individual? Sit down and think about your thinking. And when conversations don't go the way that you think they should, then you have to ask the question, what did I do to create that response? Always ask the question, what did I do? What did I do? What did I do? Don't walk away from the conversation going, they don't understand, they're not listening, they're not doing. Start with yourself first. Because when you start with yourself first, then you're going to come up with some feedback for yourself that you're probably not going to like, but it's really important to that relationship. And if you start there first and go back with a heart that says, you know what, the last time we talked, I want to apologize first for what I said or what I didn't say, and apologize and say, hey, I really want to have a good relationship with you. How can we work together? And then let them talk. Be the first one to go say, hey, listen, last time we were together, it didn't work very well, and I'll apologize for my attitude and what I said. So be the first one to jump on and say, I'm sorry, but what can I do to help this relationship? Yeah. And then listen. Yeah. Yeah.
So what you just described to me is really exciting because we talk about the power of one person, the power of one, when we talk about spreading servant leadership. And if everybody approached in the way you just described, as far as looking at yourself first, you will exhibit the power of one person.
You will.
And other people will see that and say, wow, what is that? What's going on with so-and-so? You know, that their attitude has changed, and I want to be around them.
Right, right. You know, I'm a sports guy, so I can pick teams that I watch. There are teams that never should have won championships, never won the accolades that they got because they didn't have the talent that other teams have. But they knew the power of working together as a team.
Yeah.
And they knew they could succeed together better than they were individually. And then we've all seen teams with superstars that, you know, they haven't figured out that the best way to win a championship is with a team. And I love what John Wooden says. He says, you know, individuals win trophies and teams win championships. It's not about the trophy, it's about the championship. And so, you know, in your groups, think about how do you win that championship? How do you create that environment of success? Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Well, we're going to go on and take some questions from our listeners. Our first question is, oh, this is a good one. How do I get more influence with my colleagues? I sometimes feel they don't respect me. I'm not sure if it's because I'm younger and they don't want me telling them what to do. So that's the question. You know, maybe they're taking him or her that way.
Well, there's a couple questions in there.
Yeah.
It's a great question too. You know, when you don't feel like others respect you, don't automatically assume that you can figure out why. ask them. And, you know, if you get in a safe environment, go, you know, I feel like you don't respect me. Can you help me understand? And here's the things that happen that make me feel that way. Can you help me understand? Maybe I can appreciate where you're coming from a little bit more, and go about it that way. The age difference is a big challenge in the workplace today.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a baby boomer. I have a different way of thinking. There are a lot of mostly 3 generations, sometimes 4 generations in the workplace. To meet people where they are. And if we don't meet people where they are, they're not going to listen to us because I'm doing things the old way. And when I do things the old way, they don't apply to someone in a younger age. So I have to meet them where they are, which requires me to listen, etc. So, and from a respect standpoint, I get back to respect question. Ask yourself about trust. Do they trust you, and do you trust them? Right. And usually when you start working on the trust issue, the respect issue is going to be taken care of. And if you are younger and most of the people around you are older, don't let that stop you. You have some great ideas that others need to hear. Don't give up. Don't give up because you have a lot to add. Someone will listen eventually. Just, you've got great ideas. Don't let them get buried because someone doesn't want to listen. All right? Someone will listen somewhere down the road. Keep at it. Keep at it. Yeah.
And I would, you know, if I can offer a little piece of advice, is try to focus on what you have that is similar, not the differences, because you have a lot to offer and the other people have things to offer as well. So you know, it's kind of becoming a pet peeve of mine that we're so focused on what separates us generationally when in fact we all want the same kinds of outcomes. So my fellow baby boomer generation, we need to just take a chill pill and realize that our millennials have a great deal to offer us.
They do. And, you know, when I was 25 and I was in that age range, I had guys in the organization that didn't understand me.
Yeah.
And now I'm at the other end of the spectrum. So, yeah, great point. Find the commonality and don't focus on the differences. Yeah, great point.
Okay, next question. As you seek to influence individuals to grow in their capacity, how many is too many?
Well, let's see. I'm going to ask. I'm going to see if I'm going to read into that question properly. Are we talking about how many people we can influence at a time, from a capacity standpoint, or capacity of the individual? So there's 2 questions.
Yeah.
Let's start with the capacity of the individual because that's something that goes along with the knowledge we're talking about. Is don't give someone a task that they don't have the capacity to handle. We all have our limits, so you know, just keep that going and understand that people have a capacity. Now, as a leader, how many people can you influence at one time? You're gonna be able to see that, and I think leaders can focus their influence on a smaller group of people. And what I believe is if you teach that group that you're working with, if I work with a group of 20 to 30 leaders, I know that my influence will grow because they're going to go out and they're going to create the influence to grow. I don't want to go out and do everything. If I try to do everything, I'm not going to influence very many people. But if I teach people what they need to know and then teach them how to go help other people, now you're going to grow exponentially. And so do you want to grow by yourself or grow with others? And so for myself, I had to come to realize that I needed to focus on my senior team. And so that's what I do. And there are times when I communicate with the rest of the organization, but I don't try to go in and run people's operations. I try to do it through the senior team. And that team now goes and influences more people because they're going to spend more time with them. I don't have the time to spend with them. So be a multiplier. Think about being a multiplier is really what it's all about. And if you haven't read Liz Wiseman's book, Multipliers, get it, and that will help you understand that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. We have a note here for you, Art. Great content, Art.
Thank you.
One concern I have When asking people to tell you what do you hear, I fear what we will get will border on gossip, and how can we avoid that?
This gets back to the trust basis, and as a leader, in order to trust people, you have to have a fascination for the truth. And sometimes as a leader, you have to say, you know, I understand what you hear, but is that really what happened? Is that really what happened? Or is that really what you mean? Can we talk about that a little bit more? Because we do tend to use our relationship and our trust and our talking to each other to incorporate gossip into things. And you know, I'm a man of faith, so I see that a lot when people want to say, you know, so-and-so needs prayer today. Okay, well, why? I'm not going to bite on that anymore. I'm matured past that point. I don't want any part of that gossip, right?
Yeah.
I don't want the gossip. Just give me a name. I'll pray. I'll let God tell me what to pray for, right?
Right.
But you have to stay out of the gossip. And if you feel like you're getting gossip, you need to just say, hey, you know what? I would really like to just stop. Make sure that we're dealing in the truth and focusing on the truth. And I always like to use, let's have a fascination for the truth and stay away from gossip. When it gets personal with names and things, then I step back and go, is my added value going to be better if I deal with that individual and try and take their case to the other person they're having problems with, or do I step back and help the entire team work on trust?
Yeah. Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm not getting along with someone else in the department,
Right.
I'm having a tough time, the words are, they don't respect me. As a leader, I don't want to get into having conversations with each and fix that problem between them. I want to look at the bigger problem. What's the bigger problem? Trust. So how about I invest in a trust seminar for the team and help build trust from the same perspective for the entire team?
Yeah.
And build it as a team and not as individuals.
And we have actually seen that work out.
We have.
Back when we did 360 assessments with the management team.
Right.
And people actually saw what other people thought about their, you know, qualities. And there was a lot of healing that went on through that process.
There was a lot of healing because we had to address who we are. And that isn't the easiest thing to do sometimes. But stay fascinated with the truth. And if we stay fascinated with the truth, and that's a couple of big words, but if your people in your department, your organization know that you want the truth, and I'm not going to go down the path that doesn't have the truth, but of all opinions, you know, I think that will go a long way to help that situation. Yeah.
Okay, here's a great one. I have both a CEO and a COO who are slow to trust. What is the first area that I should focus on to begin to break through and begin to build their trust in my capabilities and allow my visions to help improve the organization? I'm an HR manager in a 120-year-old company. God bless you.
Well, I first thing, I hope the CEO and COO aren't 120 years old. They're probably not. But, you know, that's an interesting question. You're working in a company that has a long-time culture. And I don't know if the culture is positive or negative. But if you have trust issues at the top, where people don't want to extend trust, some of the things you can do to help build that trust is when you're given a project, finish it on time. Whatever you're asked to do, perform it past the expectations. Do your best work the first time through. Don't do, hey, I've only got 2 weeks to do this, so I'm just going to do enough to get by. Do your best work. Do your best work. And I love Alan Mulally of Ford Motor Company when he left Boeing and went over there. He talked about an experience he had with someone. He said, he asked for a report in the market, and he said, is this your best work? And he says, well, no. Then go do your best work. And so he went back, worked on another week, and he came back and he said, now is this your best work? He says, well, no, it's really not. I could have done something else differently. I could have looked at something different. He said, give me your best work. And it took him 3 or 4 times. He finally said, this is my best work. And he says, now I'll read it. Now I'll invest my time to read it because it's your best work. Do your best work first. and you start to see a little bit of a change there.
And
you know, you're in a tough situation, and but you know, you can show your capabilities through doing your job up to 110%. Yeah.
Would you suggest that this person maybe put some of these visionary conversations on hold for a little bit while they build this foundation of getting, you know, all their assignments, you know, really meeting the expectations of that CEO and that COO?
Yeah.
And talk vision maybe later after the trust is built up?
I think so, yeah, because if you sit and start talking vision with the CEO and COO, they're going to go, well, you know, that's my job, right? That's my job, to set vision in the organization. Help them be successful. Help them be successful and be one of their big cheerleaders. And you'll start developing a different relationship with them. And now you'll have a different type of environment to really show who you are and what you can do, and you'll have those opportunities. So, you know, a lot of people say stand out in the crowd. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think you just do your best work all the time. And let them see the best you day in and day out. When they ask you a question, be honest with them. Be honest with them. That's the best thing you can do with the CEO is when they ask you a question, be honest. Don't be afraid to give them the truth. All right. Now, if you give them the truth, they fire you. You were in the wrong place in the first place. But your gut's going to tell you whether you can do that or not with the CEO. But you know, the three-letter CEO that scares people. And I will share with you. I sit in my office at times over the last 10 years, and I go, I just want people to tell me exactly what's going on, not what they think I want to hear, but what's going on, so we can get better at what we're doing. Yeah. So I hope that helped.
Yeah, and I also think maybe you know, our words are very powerful, and if we use words like serve, how can I serve you? I want to serve you so that you will succeed.
Right.
That kind of language toward the CEO, the COO, may go a long way toward building that relationship. Relationship is really going to help that situation.
You know, as we're talking, we have a great case study in Kindred Healthcare. One of our great clients. They started in a smaller organization implementing servant leadership. They took our material and they incorporated in their own training, and they started in an organization and they got results. And when they started getting results that were better than everybody else's, everybody started asking, what's going on with that group down there? We want what they have.
Yeah.
And over the years, that's morphed into, I think they're training now in 48 states. They have a great train-the-trainer program. But they had to start in a small organization first and get results. Do that as well in your own organization. Get results and show and improve. And once you start improving, people ask, well, what are you doing down there differently? Because you're performing a whole lot better than everybody else. Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks, everyone. Those were great questions. Be on the lookout for a date and time when we will discuss our final servant leadership behavior of Live Your Transformation. But our webinar program is far from over, and we plan to have future webinars on a variety of subjects. So stay plugged in to communications from the Servant Leadership Institute. We invite you to stay connected to us through social media. We'd love you to join the conversation. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel so you'll be able to view our video content, which is growing. And we're also really excited to announce the addition of podcasts to our list of resources to inspire and equip you. Our podcast will be available May 1st, and we'll be sending out communications to you regarding that. And we all know how fast time goes, so we want to give you a heads up to save the date for SLC 17 San Diego. The dates are March 13th and 14th at the Marriott Marquis San Diego Marina. You're not going to want to miss this premier event in the servant leadership community. So Art, any thoughts you'd like to leave us with as we close today's webinar?
Yeah, I think, you know, in living your transformation that we're going to talk about next, but the influence that you have, let your light shine is the best advice I can give people. You've decided to be a different type of leader. You've decided to go down a path of building trust and live your values and helping people, investing time and listening. You know what? Go. Go. And yeah, you're going to have challenges and you're going to have second thoughts, but don't let that stop you, because servant leadership is what this world needs today more than anything else. And so let's go after this together. We're here to help you. We're here to support you, but don't let anyone keep you from becoming a servant leader.
Oh, thanks, Art. Thanks so much for attending today's session. As we sign off, we always like to challenge you with a question. As you work to increase your influence, do you strive to be open and authentic with no hidden agendas? Thanks again, and we hope you'll join us for our next webinar on living your transformation.